Hi everyone, it's House Sketcher Albert, and I thought I'd like to show some more of my sketches from the past couple of weeks. Uh, I'm almost through. It's still not on there. Usually I put a number on there. This will be sketchbook number 19, and it's always amazing to see how fast these books fill up. And when you look back, I sometimes even surprise myself that some of them I really like. But for today, again, I try to keep it under the 10 minutes so that I can put it in my Instagram TV channel. So I'd walk you through a couple of them that I really like. Um, this one from Amsterdam. Uh, Amsterdam, lots of nice houses, lots of interesting houses in the sense that they just build them to fit sometimes what I think to fit the corner of a street. So they are very shallow and then put in some openings and a street here, street there, put a terrace, have some nice greenery. It's a very organic city in the center, so and that's also great opportunities for doing sketches on these buildings. Uh, Things I'd like to point out here. For me, sketching is always also about discovering new ways to try and convey a mood. And what you see here is the warm and cool contrasts, which really play out nicely. The warmth of the roof, and then here I do with some cool gray markers. For all my cools, for all my grays, mostly I use Copic markers because, yeah, they have a bigger range. It's not always necessary to have a bigger range. Winsor Newton has some nice ones too. But the Copics, the cool grays with a C and then a number, they go from 0 to, let me quickly peek, to 10. So there's a big range, and usually, especially for white buildings, don't kill it. Usually it's already, if you have a cool gray in the shadow part, that's already enough. Sometimes it's nice to have accents. So here you see a lot darker shades, and that's usually like a 6 or a 7. And again, the technique that I use to paint with, let me quickly reach over, with this one, Uniposca, and it's 0.7 millimeters, very sharp tip, and that one I use for all the white accents. And on top of that, because that's really killer white, on top of that I go over it and yeah, quickly dash with a dark cool gray marker. In this case it will be a cool gray 7 from Copic. And then here you see that against these cool tones I add some very warm dips, which I just, slightly push in there. And that one was, let me quickly grab that one, this one, the Spice. Uh, it, I already told it a couple of times in a couple of my movies, but this has a very nice tendency to bleed through darker tones as well. So it'll show up even and dissolve some of the darker tones, which makes for a nice warm contrast there. And you see that here as well. In the darks, I play with the cools and add some warmer tones. And since I also have these reddish tones, they also complement nicely on the greens of something on the building and the foreground tree and leaves. Okay, let's see. Here another one, I'll browse quickly over it. It's always nice to have these very elaborate 19th, what is it, 19th century? Yeah, probably. Or early 20th century very decorative buildings. It's always a challenge to do so, and it's always a good idea to, at least for me, not to get lost in detail too much and just suggest detail. And here, most of the detail is either by very playful, wriggly lines in black and white, and just making the big shapes, the big light and dark parts is where you actually create the shape of the building. So a light side and the darker side. And underneath it's even a lot darker than that. Let me see. On to the next one. I'm skipping one. Here's one in Utrecht where you see the same thing. Very light part of the facade. Suggesting detail also here because there was a lot of plaster work, but it was in shadow, so I just dotted it to suggest detail. I never, if I see that much detail, I immediately go on a detail break and just start suggesting it with some wriggly lines, because if you really try to draw that, at least if I try to draw that, my sketches become very stiff, and I don't want that. So here again, in the darker parts, making it up, adding some lighter tones there. Back to a village in France, where you have different challenges. The challenges there are usually because it's very old buildings, which I really like. So they're not very smooth or very sharp delineated buildings, but they are much more organic. They go into the background, they blend into nature. Plants grow out of the facades, and it's really a nice play of here, mostly of textured lines and trying to keep it together with the right color variations. Here's one from Utrecht. What I wanted to do here is somehow try and convey the size of the church in the background, because there's a big building in the foreground, and way in the background there's a small part of one of the churches in Utrecht. This is not the biggest one. This is not the Dom of Utrecht. This is another one. But I try to convey that contrast between the foreground building and the background. And the foreground building was almost completely black. It's not a good idea to try and really do that, except if you want to go with a really graphical kind of style. So it's trying to be careful not to kill the depth and pick a really black marker for that. So I go with, in this case, this will be a cool gray 7 and a cool gray 8 or 9. So that I still have, let me zoom in, so that I still have a tone left for, in this case, my black lines and the white accent from that marker. This is one that really played out very well, and sometimes you see these things emerge while you're working on them. So and it's really a lot of fun seeing that work out. It's not like, okay, now I want to create this very nice atmosphere. It's something that emerges. But this one was also in Utrecht. It's a shopping street, and if you see it in the real, it doesn't look as romantic as this, but it emerged, and I really had a lot of fun trying to convey that. Usually you see me adding a couple of dots all over the place. You see that in every drawing. Dot, dot, dot. In this case, it's not that I wanted to overplay it, but here there was, I think it's a chestnut tree or something, but it had these kind of dried up fruits which were hanging from the branches. So here they had a function as well. let me just browse through and pick a last one for this session. This one, also from Utrecht. Utrecht has some very nice canals too. Amsterdam is famous for it, but Utrecht also has a lot of really nice canals. And what you see here on the right, they have masses of bicycles as well. So you see suggested detail from bicycle steering wheels. Here again, the cool grays, having fun with the warmer and lighter tones of the sun, just pushing all the way against this facade, and then adding some accent tones just to really have a nice color play. And it's always fun to see if you can pull off the reflective kind of canal surfaces. And in this case, well, I thought it worked. Okay, hopefully I've stayed between under the 10 minutes, and I'll try to make one in a very short time. So see you next time. Thanks for your attention. Bye bye.